Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Smashcast with me, Killjoy. Sort of a show where I talk about my thoughts and feelings about Smash Brothers, or more importantly the up and coming Smash Brothers games coming out for 3DS and Wii U. So it's going to be cool. Anyway, as a lot of you may know, there was a Nintendo Direct yesterday, and specifically on the game, or on the two games, talking about and sharing a lot of information, which was really cool to see. Got me more excited than I already am. Anyway, I thought I'd just sort of talk about my own feelings and thoughts towards a lot of the things that were announced, like the levels, the characters, and some other bits and bobs that I thought might be relevant. In no particular order, I'm just going to go through some bits of information and whatnot. Starting off with the whole stage thing, with the exclusive stages to the 3DS version and to the Wii U version, and how they're, apart from I think Battlefield and Final Destination, the rest of the levels are going to be completely different. So the 3DS stages that they showed off were Reset Bomb Forest, which I believe is from Kid Icarus, and that was a cool stage. It's like a you're like fighting on top of something, I'm not sure what, and then the background blows up, and the next thing you're going for an auto-scroller with like enemies from the Kid Icarus game from the 3DS. Then you had the Super Mario 3D Land level, which is like an auto-scroller again, and it goes from like a left to right perspective, and then from a forward to backwards perspective. That one looked quite cool. The Spirit Train from Zelda, that looks really fun. You're fighting on a train, and I think different carriages come from both the left and right direction, with various like platforms or obstacles on them. That was pretty cool. See if I can pronounce this right. Gerardo Valley, I think it is, which is another Zelda level, and that was kind of cool. It was like kind of a stationary level, but you had like the trap, the bridge in the middle would open up and people could fall down, and that was kind of cool. Then there was Arena Ferox, which was from Fire Emblem, and that stage reminded me very much of like Pokemon Stadium. It was like a flat level, and then it would transform, and different platforms would be in different places. That was kind of cool. Tortimer Island, which was the Animal Crossing level, which was again kind of interesting because there was information about that recently, where they were saying how the level kind of randomly generates every time you play it, so it's slightly different, or at least that's my understanding of how it works anyway. Then you had the Living Room, which is from Nintendogs, and that's kind of cool, like the fact you've got the building blocks and the dog rolling around in the background. You're quite small in comparison. I like that one, that looks fun. Prism Tower from the new Pokemon game, where you're like sort of in that town or city. You fight at the bottom of it, and I think you work your way up, which is kind of cool. And they had Rainbow Road, which I believe it was from the 3DS version of Mario Kart 7, which was very much similar to the F-Zero stages in the older games. So you fight for a bit, you move to the next part of the level, you fight for a bit more. That's kind of cool. And these last couple they showed were probably the most interesting for me. Was Find Me, so all that Me Street Pass game where you and whatnot. Yeah, you have like a me in a cage, and you're fighting there, and that big like ghost monster comes down, and you have to fight that, which is kind of cool. And then lastly was a balloon fight level based on the original game, and that looked really cool. And from what I could tell, it looked like the screen wrapped around, so you could run off one side and come back on the other. I'm not sure if that's how it works, but it kind of looked like it was like that. And then the last level they showed for the 3DS was a remake of Jungle Japes from Smash Bros. Melee. So that was kind of cool to see that in there. Of all the levels, I think definitely the balloon fight level looked the most interesting, because if I did see what I saw was correct, the idea that you can run off one side to another, that's completely new. Like, it's never been done, because normally you run off the screen, you're dead. So that's kind of cool. And the Find Me level looked really good. I mean, all the levels looked really good in general. A lot of seemed to be in a good mix of auto-scroller levels and a good mix of the stationary levels, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, like, and also to see the fact that they're gonna have other remakes of older levels specifically on the 3DS version as well. That's cool that they're splitting both between both the Wii U and the 3DS one. So I'm looking forward to that. As for the Wii U version, the levels on that were pretty cool. You had the Mario Galaxy level, which is where you're on top of the planet in space. It's slightly bent, so the physics are a little bit different. Looked a little bit empty for what it was, because it was a planet with the two platforms, but I'm going to assume there's going to be more going on in that level than actually meets the eye. Then you had the Pyrosphere, sorry, from Metroid Other M, I believe it is, and that looks kind of cool. And I know that Ridley makes an appearance on that level at some point. Then you had Town and City from Animal Crossing. Again, I don't. This one looked like similar to the Brawl version of the Animal Crossing level, but it's probably more to that. There's a good chance that I might pick up and fly as well. Excuse me. You had the boxing ring, which is quite a basic level, but it looks quite nice. Obviously, from both used it for Punch Out and for this new Smash Brothers stage. And then you had the Pilot Wings level, which is cool. You're flying on the planes between the modern, I believe it's the modern Pilot Wings and Woohoo Island and the original Pilot Wings. Then you had Skyloft from Zelda, which looked really cool. That was another auto-scroller where it would pick up and you'd go fight somewhere else and then you'd land. Windy Hill Zone for the Sonic level looked really cool. That was an interesting looking level. It's a little bit smaller than I imagined it would be, but at the same time you've got like these two bumpers on the edges of the platforms as well, which is kind of cool. Then you have Garden of Hope, which is I'm assuming is from Pikmin 3, which looked pretty cool. It looked a lot bigger than the older Pikmin level from the Wii U, the Smash Bros. Brawl from the Wii, so that's kind of cool. The Wii Fit Studio, which is I like the idea that this level is quite a basic looking level, but you know, you can see what's going on in the background because it's like a mirror and stuff. And I'm assuming other things happen in the background as well when you're fighting. You had Palutena's Temple, which might be the biggest Smash Brothers level they've made yet. When they zoomed out on that, there was a lot of platforms. It looks bigger than the Porky level. No, not the Earthbound level. New Pork City, I think it is, in Brawl. I might be wrong, it might be the same size as that, but it definitely looked massive. And then the last one they showed, or one of the last ones they showed, was Wily's Castle, which we've seen before, but they were also showing off the whole Yellow Devil, the monster that comes in from the background, lands on the stage and gets in your way, but you can also blow it up and use it to kill or KO your other opponents. And then the last level they showed, which was a remake, was the Halberd stage from Brawl, which looked cool as well. It's nice to see that they brought that stage back. That's kind of a fun one. As for the stages go on the Wii U version, I think the most interesting one I saw was probably... I don't know, it's a difficult one. Maybe Palutena's Temple, because I'd like to see how big it is to fight on. I kind of like the look of the boxing ring. Very simple level by the looks of things, but I like that one. Pilot Wings level, I'd like to see how that one plays out. But all the levels in general look pretty good. I feel like there's probably more than met the eye with a lot of those. And obviously, yeah, I said the thing about the boss. They got the boss characters coming in on certain stages, so that's going to be pretty cool. So that was one of the things they showed off with the stages. They also teased a few little other bits and bobs. There was a tease about how the 3DS version and the Wii U version connect in some way, but they're like not going to be showing us. So it's like, yeah, okay, fair enough. One of the cool things about both versions, or mainly about the 3DS version, was that they've got the game and the players moving in 60 frames per second. And for people that don't know what that means, it's a much smoother experience. If you're making a fighting game like they are, or if you're playing a fighting game, you want the smoothest experience possible. And when you have games that are 30 frames a second, it kind of detracts from the game. Like playing something like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat or even Tekken professionally, if they were playing at 30 frames a second, they're more likely more mistakes would happen. It's hard to explain exactly without going to look it up, but the fact that they have got the game running at 60 frames per second is a very smooth experience, and they've got it in stereoscopic 3D as well, which is just as impressive. The fact that you can play that in 3D and it stays at 60, so it's good to see that they've been making sure that the game runs as best as possible. The weird but interesting thing is that they've got the assist trophies in the Pokemon running at 30 frames a second, which is like, oh, okay, so how I know, it just blows my mind how they managed to do that in a game that's running at 60 and then other items are running at 30, but it's cool nonetheless. So moving on then, they got onto online modes, and this is actually kind of cool. I thought what they were doing for the online was really a good idea. They have the for fun mode and for glory. So you can play with friends, where you can set all your own rules and do what you want online, and then you've got with anyone. And with anyone was for fun and for glory. For fun was basically a mode where you could play, it would randomly pick levels, it would put pretty much all the items in the game, and you just have a blast. And yeah, it's kind of like that. The only level it didn't pick was Final Destination. And for glory was for more those players that like to play the game without items, like to play it. It's just like skillful and only play on Final Destination. So it's kind of cool to see that they've decided, you know, there is a competitive scene. Like they haven't made the game like an esport, but they've given people that want to play that specific style the area to practice on, and it's cool to see that you have got both in there. Like they acknowledge both the fact they want it to be a fun game and just let anyone play, and then they've got acknowledged the fact that other people want to play a bit more competitively with just the player skills, and it's good to see that they've done that, which looks really, really cool. So that was the main online mode for both of the games. They also showed off a 3DS version only online mode called Smash Run, which was a cool looking idea. I don't know, like, if I'd personally get bored of it, but I like the idea that they were going for. So basically the way Smash Run works is each character is set into one big giant map, and you run around the map and you have to collect power-ups for 5 minutes. You're limited to 5 minutes, and you get power-ups for your attack, your defense, your special attack, your jump, your speed, and you go around for 5 minutes beating up enemies from various games, even some from the Subspace Embassy in Brawl, collecting all these power-ups. After the 5 minutes is up, you get chucked into a free-for-all with three other players, and you fight with all your power-ups. So you basically, like, if you've picked up only attack, you'll do way more attack, or you picked up loads of speed, you move a lot faster. And the idea is really cool. Like, it's like every time you play it, it's randomly generated. The enemies are not always the same. You're never going to pick up all the same items. And then you get chucked into this fight, and you might have amazing attack power on your special attacks, but you might not have very good speed. So it's kind of cool, like it was different every time. Like a really interesting mode. I don't know personally if I would play it a lot, but I like the idea that it's there. So that was mostly the online modes. It looked like it was going to be, they've got it sussed. Let's hope so. After the Brawl one was a bit janky. Wasn't that great. And then there was a lot of stuff about items, which was cool. There was quite a few shown off. They've got smart bombs back from Brawl. That was cool to see. The motion sensor bombs back. The bumpers back. The beam swords back. And those are like some of the older items that they showed. And then they showed us some really cool, interesting new ones. You had the beetle from, I think it's Skyward Sword, which basically you fire an opponent and it picks them up and lifts them into the air. I don't know if it takes them all the way off the screen, but it looked like it took them quite high up into the air, which is cool. You then had the fire bar. So if anyone's played the original Super Mario Brothers, when you go to a castle level and you've got the spinning fire bars, basically that is an item. But every time you hit someone with it, you lose a fireball from it. So eventually you can hit them like 5-6 times, and then it's useless after that because there's no more fireballs on it. So that was a cool, interesting item. The power block's actually back. It was, I say back, it was never really an item, but it was in the original Smash Brothers where you could hit it and people would shoot up into the air. Now it's an actual item and you can chuck it and it makes people do the same thing. They fly up into the air, which is kind of cool. The back shield, which is a really interesting item and I think is going to be very valuable. It's a shield that you put on your back, so when people try to shoot you, I think it might just be projectiles. I'm not sure. They didn't really show that in the trailers. But you basically, anyone tries to shoot you, the shot, it just stops the shot, which is great. It basically means you can attack someone and not have to worry about what's going on behind. They then added bomb shoes in from Zelda, which was cool. Like, you chuck them down, they just run along until they hit someone and blow up, which was, they look quite fun. The fairy bottle, which I don't know if that's replacing the heart or the Maxim Tomato, but basically you pick one of those up and it restores health. The Ore Club, which I thought was quite an interesting weapon that they put in the game. Basically, from what I could tell, you move really slowly when you pick it up. But this item's huge, it's like a massive club. But when you do a smash attack with it, it sends out a whirlwind that hits the opponent, so that was kind of fun. They had an X-Bomb, which I think is also from Kid Icarus. which blows up in either a cross or like a plus sign, depending on how it lands, I think. And that just shoots out in 4 directions, which is cool. Then you had the, I'm not even sure how to pronounce this, basically the spaceship, Oromar's final smash. That spaceship, as a bomb, it shoots up in the air, comes back down and crashes and blows things up, which was kind of cool. The rocket belt from Pilotwings, which was, I think, one of the coolest additions they've added. Basically, what they showed was Little Mac had this rocket belt on his back, and he could fly up and go along. I don't know how much long it lasts or anything, but the idea that you can basically pick this thing up and just fly away, very, very handy recovery item by the looks of things, which is nice. And then the Steel Diver, which is an interesting item. I know it was shown before, but to actually see it, it was quite strange. It's basically a gun. So it's the game Steel Diver. It's one of the submarines from that, but it's basically a gun that you pick up, and when you fire it, like torpedoes come out. They start off slow and then they gather speed as they move along. But the torpedoes are really small, but they seem to hit the opponent back quite far. So that was kind of cool. And then after that, they went on to the assist trophies. So you got some returning ones. You've got Andros, you know, the one that flies to the back, fires cubes or squares forwards. Devil, the one who moves the screen around. Knuckle Joe. Lynn, the one that just chops you and flies. Nintendog, Waluigi, Dr. Wright was back, the guy who spawns the skyscraper. And then you had Skull Kid, who was a new one, I think. Basically turned the whole level upside down, which was kind of cool. Mother Brain is definitely a new one. That's cool. He just pops up and just shoots whoever's nearest with this big laser. Midna's in there from Twilight Princess, grabs people, chucks them. Dark Samus was in there, which is really cool to see. I was kind of hoping originally they'd make her a playable character, but to see Dark Samus as an assist trophy, that's cool. So to see that. Chain Chomps are in there, one of my favourite ones by the looks of it. You know, chuck them down, they just jump about and try and attack whoever's nearest. They also had like Electman from Mega Man, which was cool. That was cool to see. He zaps people. And then they had like a version of Pong called Color TV Game 15, which I think they made like a rip-off of it years ago, which basically has 2 Pong paddles either side of the screen, knocking a ball about, which was kind of cool. And when the ball's bouncing around, it can hit other people. And then they moved on to Pokeballs, and the fact that they've got new additions, which are Master Balls. So the Master Balls have the legendary Pokemon in them, and really rare Pokemon in them. Whereas the Pokeballs just, I think, have mostly the normal Pokemon in it. So that was kind of cool. You had some of the older ones. You had like Electrode, Meowth, Staryu, Mega Cross in it. Mega Cross, I don't know how you pronounce that. And that was kind of cool. But then you had some newer ones like Go-Go, and then Entei comes out of Master Ball now, Deoxys, all those sort of things. So that was kind of cool. I'm not going to try to pronounce too many of these Pokemon names because I don't know them that well. So that was kind of cool to see the Pokemon in there. There seemed to be quite a lot of those. And then after, or mainly the last thing they spoke about was kind of the characters and the cool things they're doing with the characters now. So they started off with returning characters, and they basically stated that there's going to be no more characters that can switch between battles. So Samus to Zero Suit Samus and Zelda to Sheik are no longer like one character. So you have Samus, and now you have Zero Suit Samus, and you have Sheik, and you have Zelda. So it's kind of cool how they've changed up how it works. So with Samus, for the most part, looks the same. Didn't show too much, just showed the fact that the Zero Laser doesn't get rid of her armor now. And then they showed Zero Suit Samus, who's kind of got these cool like rocket boots that kind of like help her attack. So she plays kind of like the same as she did, except for now she's got a better recovery move, and she can do these lightning fast attacks and jump around like crazy all over the place, which was cool. And then they showed Sheik and Zelda no longer has, obviously because they're separate characters, no longer has that transformation ability. So now she has this Knight move where basically you push down and B, and this Knight shoots out. I think it was a Knight shoots out and whacks things. So it's kind of like a shield as well as like an aggressive move. So that was kind of cool. And Sheik, they basically gave her 2 new moves. One was called Bouncing Fish, and I can't remember what the other one was called. It was like a grenade. You just like chuck a quick grenade and it blows up. And the other one was like a kick, You sort of jump up in the air, you hit off someone and send them flying, and then you bounce back, which looked kind of cool. So that was cool. That was what they showed for those two. Then they showed off Yoshi. So Yoshi's finally been announced and put into the game, and he's different as that he stands upright, a lot more upright than he did in the older games. But other than that, from what I could tell and what I saw in these trailers, was that he played pretty much the same. None of his moves seemed to have changed or whatnot. His egg throw looked a little bit different animation-wise, but other than that, he looked pretty much the same. So that was kind of cool to see him back. Not one of my personal favourite characters, but a very fun character nonetheless, so it's good to see him back. And then they were talking about how some of the other characters have changed some of their movesets slightly. Obviously, they've said about before about there's no longer like infinite combo moves, so like Fox's kick and Kirby's punch now have ends to them. So they were showing, you saw clips of that. Obviously Bowser's moveset has changed a little bit as well, and so's Link's. I think they've given Link a different move. So it's kind of cool how they're trying to make the characters more interesting to play as, which was nice. Then they went on to talk about the sort of the newer characters and like their movesets and things. So you had like Mega Man being shown off, and then each direction of his specials and his running moves and what attacks did what. So that was kind of cool. So like you run and hit the A button, for example, and you do the Top Man spin, and up and B was like his the jet bounce move. I can't remember what the actual name of it's called, but the move where you bounce up in the air off rush, sorry, and fly up. So it was kind of cool showing that. They showed off. Talked a lot about Rosalina and Luma and how they worked and how they're kind of similar to the Ice Climbers in the fact that you have two separate characters, but you kind of control them at the same time. So whereas like you would sort of attack with the Ice Climbers and the other one would follow suit, but you could desync them, it looked like with this that whenever you attacked as Rosalina, the Luma would attack. Now I assume that you can probably desync those two as well, which was kind of cool. But like the fact that she could just chuck Luma out halfway across the screen, stand there, tap the button, and he would attack for her was kind of cool. I feel like she's going to be quite a difficult character to master, to really get like the feel for how she works and stuff. But she looked like a fun character, like learning those moves and whatnot. Little Mac was really interesting, like seeing Little Mac, how he works and how basically most of his moves are punches. The fact that he can, when he gets hit, he can still fight through a move and still connect with the punches. And he showed off he has a counter move, like an uppercut, and all these different bits and bobs. And he's unique that he has his own KO bar. So that was kind of cool. Like you build that up and then you get a one-hit move that you can KO someone with. Which I'm assuming when you know they've got it is probably not easy to avoid, but you probably can avoid it, which is kind of cool. It's probably not too cheap. But his biggest downfall they were showing off is that he's not very good in the air. His attacks in the air are very weak. He's terrible for getting back on the stage and whatnot. So he has this very powerful character who can combo you, and then you have this character who just can't do anything else when he's being airborne and whatnot. So it looks fun to use. In my opinion, he looked a little bit overpowered. Like his smash attacks really knocked people for 6. But because he's a small character, I'm kind of guessing he won't be overly too hard to knock off the stage. It's going to be interesting to play as him. He looks like he's going to be a lot of fun. Then they showed off... who else did they show off that was new? Yeah, I can't remember. That's not good, is it? They showed off some other characters that were new, I think. Oh, the Villager. They showed off the Villager. And he looked kind of cool. They were showing off his side specials. Well, he looks like an interesting character, like, you know, the way that he does things. The fact he's got like Lloyd Rocket as he shoots along left and right and getting back on. It's got the balloon fight. Balloons to get back on, so that was kind of cool. And the Wii Fit Trainer, or Trainers as it's now being called, was kind of cool as well. Showed off 2 of their special moves. This move that gives you down and B, which gives you this increased damage, I don't know for how long, for some time, and this sort of projectile. And how you can combo the two. You can build up the projectile, use the more damage move, and then launch the projectile to knock the opponent off the screen. So that was kind of cool, seeing those. And then right at the end, they did show off a couple more characters. Charizard's back, so now he's back, but it looks like he's back on his own. So that was cool. Pretty much, for what I could tell, looked the same as in Brawl. And then a Pokemon that I personally didn't know was called Greninja. I think that's how he is. He's like the final evolved form of the starting Pokemon in the new Pokemon X and Y. And he looked interesting. I mean, I've got to admit, I was feeling a little bit disappointed when they showed off another Pokemon. I was like, but you know, it's kind of cool that that he's in there and whatnot. So that was kind of fun. And that was basically most of what the characters they had to show. And it looks like, that's brought the characters up to, I think, 29 now. So, I don't know how many more they plan on adding and how many new ones they plan on adding. So that was kind of cool and whatnot, seeing that kind of like, ooh, these are some fun looking characters. I mean, the cool thing about it so far is all the characters look very different, which is good to see. No one's going to be playing the same thing. And talking about characters being different, it actually brings us into one other thing they announced, was customizable movesets, which was a really cool addition, I think, from what they showed. Now, what they showed mostly was Mario's Fireball. So instead of being this bouncing fireball, he has this move where he can fire it, but it comes out as this big, slow-moving fireball. Or he can do this one where it fires out straight, but a lot faster, and a very small, like, quick fireball. And then they showed Pit with his arrow, like you can fire it, and it comes out and spins around in a circle before flying off. So that was cool. And I think they showed Marth as well. But this is only usable in the offline modes, so probably local play, things like that. In online mode, the moves are all standard. So that was cool seeing these, like Kirby Sucking for another one, where he does, rather than sucking you in, freezes you as well. So that was really cool. Like the idea that they can have these different moves is really, really interesting, and I think it's going to be fun to mess around with and see what you like and what you don't like. And when you at least play against someone else, the idea that your character is not the same as theirs because you want a faster projectile rather than a more damaging projectile. You want to get in, get out. So I like the fact that they've done that with it. Really interesting idea. And there was a few other little bits and bobs, I think, in there, but that was for the majority what they showed in this Nintendo Direct. And for me, mostly, that was... and obviously the launch dates or the launch windows being that the 3DS version is coming first, and that's coming in summer, and my guess for that will probably be August. And then the winter this year, which basically December, I think the Wii U version is going to come out around about Christmas, which is probably a good idea. I think the 3DS version coming out has its plus points and its negatives. Like, I think the fact that the 3DS version coming out is like, oh, okay, it's summer, people are going to be out on the move, they can take it with them. Great idea. My biggest downfall for that is that when the game finally comes out, and you get the 3DS version, if characters are being unlocked, which I hope they are, it's like, are they going to be done the same way as they are in the Wii U version? Are you going to have different starting characters? There's almost like, if you're looking forward to the Wii U version, the 3DS version is almost has this idea of spoiling a lot of content for you. I mean, it's probably not going to be done the same way, but the fact that I'll know who the locked characters are in the 3DS version. Hopefully that won't be the same as the Wii U version, but it kind of takes away that mystique. Like, if one game comes out, and you're like, oh, okay, I've got to unlock these characters, and I don't know who goes where and what on the fighting screen. If it's the same as the 3DS to the Wii U one, then you're going to know. And by the time that game comes out, all the characters will be announced. So when the Wii U one rolls around, it'll be like, oh, I know how to do this character or that character. So that's kind of my, like, gripe, but they might do it in a way that makes it interesting and doesn't me like, oh, it's just play this or whatever. And so that could be kind of cool. My last kind of thought on this whole Smash Bros thing was kind of the other characters from the last game that haven't been announced. I mean, obviously most of the characters from Melee, like Mewtwo and Roy, I mean, the chances of them coming back, very unlikely. But other characters that were in the last game, there's quite a few that I just kind of wanted to talk to and give my quick opinion on if I think they're going to come back or not. I mean, bear in mind, they're already at 29 characters. Now, I'm pretty, like, with Brawl, you had 34 or 35, which was a good number. And I feel like with the Wii U version being more powerful, you could have maybe up to 50 characters. I don't think they're going to go that far. I don't think they'll go more than 40, which doesn't leave that much room to play with. So it'll be interesting to see that mix of if they put much more older characters in or whether they go for more newer ones. So a quick list of people that I thought may or may not come back in. Wario, I would like to see him come back. I think he's a very interesting character. Waluigi's in the game, so I'm kind of hoping that Wario's going to be back because he's just a lot of fun to use. He's a very different, very weird character, but I hope he's back. Captain Falcon hasn't been announced yet. I mean, I'm hoping that's a no-brainer. I mean, he's got to be in the game, right? Like, if they take him out, that'd be kind of foolish. Falco isn't been announced yet. Again, I mean, unless he plays very differently to Fox, you know, we'll see how that goes. Hopefully he plays differently to Fox a lot more than he used to, so people will want to play it. I don't want to see too many characters, personally, that are that similar. I mean, Mario and Luigi already look quite different, but again, I don't know how much they would play differently. But I think Falco will probably come back. I think Wario, Captain Falcon, Falco will probably come back. Rob, now there's an interesting one, because Rob was a very different character, but I almost feel like he's not going to be in this game. I'm not sure why, but I don't think they'll have Rob in this game. I mean, hopefully I'm wrong, but I just have this feeling that he's not going to be back, which will kind of be a shame. Ness and Lucas, well, I'm hoping one of them's back. I'm kind of hoping Ness is back. Ness is one of my personal favourite characters to play as. So if he's not back, I'm going to be very annoyed. Just because he is, you know, he's a staple character, has been for the last 3 games. So I'm really hoping he's back for the next one. Lucas, on the other hand, I don't think is going to be in the game. I mean, I just see Ness is that character who's going to be coming back. And I think, you know, Lucas had his time in the last game. Probably not in this next one. Jigglypuff, kind of an interesting choice there, because already we have 4 Pokemon announced. Charizard, Greninja, Pikachu, and Lucario. So, does that mean Jigglypuff's out of the game? It kind of seemed weird again, because that's one of the original characters who was unlockable in the N64 Smash Brothers. So, I'm kind of tossed up between whether we'll see her back. In a way, I think would do, because she's an old character, or she. But at the same time, I don't think we will, if they don't want to put any more than 4 playable Pokemon characters in. Again, this is just my speculation on like who I think is going to be back and who's not going to be back. Ganondorf, again, I feel like a no-brainer, but it really depends on if they make his moveset different to Captain Falcon. I think they'll put him in the game, but I think they'll change him a bit more than they did, which would be kind of cool. Then there's the Ice Climbers, which I have no idea. I'm like, are they going to bring them back? I mean, they were, again, a very different character, but I remember hearing them saying about how doing 2 characters on the 3DS would be quite difficult. But if Rosalina and Luma's in it, then it's like, oh, okay, maybe they can do it. Meta Knight, having seen the Halberd as a stage, makes me kind of think that he is in the game, but very weakened down or very different to his Brawl iteration, mainly because he got, believe he got banned in tournaments. He was very overpowered because he had a lot of air attacks and air control. In a way, I don't think he'll be back. The fact that King DDD's in there with Kirby, it's like a heavy character and a light character, I think they'll keep it at that. Maybe Meta Knight will be back, I don't really know. Mr. Game & Watch, I'd like to think he's going to be in this game. Again, one of my, like, he's been in the last couple games, a very different character. He's 2D, he's a lot of fun to play with, his moveset's really quirky. I mean, it'd be great to see him back. Snake, I highly doubt it. I don't think recently Konami are really doing anything for Nintendo, and the licensing issue there, maybe, I don't know. It would be cool to see Snake back in the game, but I mean, I very much doubt it. I mean, they've already got Sonic and they've already got Mega Man. Are we going to see another third-party character? Probably not. Maybe something from Namco, but who knows. Then there's Wolf, who I very much doubt is going to be in the game at all. I honestly don't think he's going to be back. They're not going to if Falco's not going to be in the game, there's no way Wolf's going to be in the game. Like, Falco's been there, people like using him. Wolf, I never saw many people use a lot of when I played a lot, so I highly doubt it. And then Pokemon Trainer, who could be in the game, but now Charizard's become this standalone character. I doubt it. And again, we've already got other Pokemon characters, so I kind of think they're not going to do it. It's weird. I mean, the biggest thing with the additions of the characters is that they've said that the 3DS version and the Wii U version are going to have the same characters. So potentially you could have DLC down the line, which is more characters, more maps. But if the 3DS version is limiting how many characters they can put on the Wii U, I would rather the Wii U version had more characters and the 3DS version had less, because I still want to see some of those characters announced. Plus, I want to see new ones. You know, I'd like to see somebody else maybe from the F-Zero series. There's other characters from the Fox series that you could put in there, like Crystal. You know, there's other characters that they could be used. You know, it'd be cool to see Waluigi as a playable character. You know, obviously he's an assist trophy in this game, but you know, like him being a playable character would be kind of a lot of fun. But you know, it's predictions. I don't know what Nintendo plan on putting on in this game or whatnot. If I had to predict one character, and this is just far out there, I would like to see Pac-Man in the game, only because Namco are obviously helping Sakurai make the game, and you know, Namco could put somebody in there from Soul Calibur, they could put somebody in there from some of their RPGs they made, and there's obviously Tekken. But I think the one character that would be really cool to put in the game would be Pac-Man. He suits that, and obviously it wouldn't be the original 2D Pac-Man, it would be a 3D variant, but to see Pac-Man in there would be really cool, because then you've got Mega Man in there, who's like this big old school Capcom game. You've got Pac-Man, who's this old school arcade game, you know, and it would be cool to see him in there. And you've got Sonic and you've got Mario, so you've got these 4 iconic classic characters, you know, so that would be kind of cool to see him in there. I honestly I have no idea whether they put him in there. I don't know if Namco are going to get a slot in there, but it would be really cool if they did, and whatnot. But yeah, so and you know, we shall see. This will go. Anyway, that's it from me on this Smashcast. I plan on doing a few more, maybe like weekly updates on what they post online and whatnot, and just kind of keep you guys informed and give you my thoughts and feelings on things as information gets drip feeded to me about like what those certain things and whatnot. But until then, if you could just hit the like or subscribe button, and cool, it does me a favor. But until next time, guys, I'll see you then.